Yeah, welcome to the New Process Podcast. I started this podcast 3 years ago to support you with tools, methods, and best practices to take your process to the next level. I know from my own experience at Lufthansa how exhausting it can be to fight for processes. Lack of allies, countless unanswered questions, little support. The past can feel tough when you are on your own. But it doesn't have to be like that. I'll be by your side on this journey with proven concepts, personalized coaching, plenty of motivation, and full commitment. Just send me an email to mirko@newproslab.com if I can support you. So let's fight for processes together. And now enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the New Process Podcast. Learn all the tools, methods, and best practices combined with people, emotions, and a human-centric mindset to rethink your process and push it to the next level. And here is your host, Mirko Kloppenberg.
Yeah, welcome to episode 63 of the New Process Podcast. Today we're going on to a short flight with BPM, process mining and transformation consultant, podcast host, and soon-to-be New York Times bestseller author Roland Woldt. Roland has an impressive track record of more than 25 years in the BPM space. He worked as a consultant and in management positions for Accenture, Software AG, KPMG, and iGrafix. Together with J-M Erlendson, Roland is co-hosting the What's Your Baseline podcast. And a few days ago, he published his first book to share all his experience with the BPM and Enterprise Architecture community. Roland lives in Northern Virginia, about an hour's drive from Washington, D.C., together with his wife, 2 dogs, 2 cats, and 7 chickens. I really appreciate his experience and his view on BPM matters. I have already been a guest on his podcast, and now I'm looking forward to talking to him in this format. So, in the episode, you will learn what his new book is all about, how this contributes to building a process-driven organization. We are also elaborating a bit on his predictions for the future of BPM, and you will learn more about the chance to meet Roland in person in the near future if you are living in Europe. So, enjoy the interview with Roland Woldt.
And now, let's start to rethink processes.
Yeah, welcome to New Process Podcast, Roland. Finally, we made it. It's great to have you here. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm super confused if I should talk German to you or if we speak in English. So,
yeah. Actually, the last episode I published twice. I recorded it twice, one in English and one in German language. So you could have been a guest for a double version as well, but let's stay in the English world here today. That's okay, I would say.
Yeah, then I would have to remember what I said, and
exactly.
Then repeat it, which at my advanced age is not that easy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. But anyways, so let's dive right into the check-in. So what do you prefer in an aircraft, aisle or window seat?
Aisle.
Why?
It's just more convenient, if you need to go to the restroom or if you need to get to your roller bag or whatever, you don't have to ask other people.
Yeah. Okay. And what is your favorite airport?
Oh, that is a very good question. So the local airport, we have 3 airports in the DC area. So we have National in DC, which is the least favorite because of the traffic to get there. We have Baltimore Washington International, which is a small airport, but it's clean, it's convenient. You drive over the interstate to get there.
Okay.
But my local airport is Washington Dulles, and it's like a big bus station. You just arrive, and then it's like entrance. They have a little train that brings you to the gates or to the terminals, and it's just like it feels like riding a bus.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not fancy. Favorite. I would love to see, I haven't seen it. I would love to see the new airport in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
So, as you know, I worked for a company that was based in Portland, so I've been there a couple of times, but they just reopened a new terminal. And I saw videos about it. It's super nice because obviously Portland, timber and forest and whatnot, and they played with that theme, and it
Okay.
looks super awesome.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
I'm looking forward to going back to them and see how the airport looks.
Yeah.
The old one that I used was also not fancy.
Okay.
Anyways, so
Oh,
Portland,
that's
Oregon.
cool. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's it for the check-in. Then I would say that's basically my favorite question I always ask. How would you describe your relationship to processes?
Oh, they exist.
They exist. And you as well.
I'm I think I'm biased. I'm doing that process and architecture thing for almost 30 years now. And if you do it for so long, as they say, if you just have a hammer, everything is a nail. You have that professional deformation, and you look at something and say, oh yeah, that's a process error. Somebody dropped the ball. They could do better. Even though whenever there might be other reasons. Somebody has a heartbreak and is not on top of his game. Or whatever it is. Not everything is a process issue. But to come back to that, the first time I really was exposed to it was after my military time. No, even then, I developed some processes for if whatever something bad happens, and you want to have it planned what you do. But the professional side was way back when in '97 at Deutsche Bahn, where they put up a customer service center or greenfield. They after the decentralization and split of the Bahn into the English word Fernverkehr, Nahverkehr, cargo, and so on. Right, the different branches that they have. We built, designed a customer service center for DB Cargo, somewhere, greenfield, whatever. And they obviously need to know what are the processes. And they were using a very well-known tool for this. And my colleague said, don't touch it, you can break it. And guess what the very mature 29-year-old does? You get your hands on it, and that's why I got exposed to it. And the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. And then fast forward, I introduced you as BPM, process mining transformation consultant, as podcast host, and now since a week when we are recording this, so about 2 weeks when we are releasing this, you are the author of a soon-to-be New York Times bestseller. Congratulations on this. So
you know that I shared my royalties just in the prep call just before this. I'm miles and miles away
close
from
to
it.
it. Yeah. So the book is called Successful Architecture Implementation, and then a practical guide on how to implement your EA and BPM program. Yeah.
It is.
That's good. Before we dive into the book, why should I buy your book? Yeah, just sell it to me.
Well, so first of all, you want me to be on the New York Times bestseller list, right? So that's the means of getting me on that list. But in all seriousness, what I've seen in so many projects, and I worked for 2 software vendors, right? In half of my career, the other was working in consulting organizations. And a lot of clients just think like, oh yeah, process, just give me your damn tool, give me the licenses and let go away. Right. And then they start drawing some processes, whatever. They could have used a whiteboard for it, right? In all seriousness. And then they say, oh, yeah, now the project is over. We don't need this thing anymore. And they put it on the virtual shelf and it collects virtual dust. And at some point in time, somebody says, why do we pay so much money for it? While nobody is using it. And then it just disappears, right? And I think that is a missed chance that organizations have, because, and maybe the second detour in my mind, there is no difference between BPM and EA. It's the same thing. People just look at the same thing with different angles.
Okay.
Right. So an organization has one architecture, a structure, and it could be easily organically grown. Your listeners see me doing air quotes here, or it could be planned. And of course, I think the planned is the better way, right? And for that, you have the tools, There's various out there. Don't want to name anyone. On my podcast, I always say we're equal opportunity tool critic, I guess, so we don't have a preference, right? But in the book, I used the tool, right? So I maybe shout out. I was using Software AG's Eris for this as an
Heard
example.
about that.
But the idea was, it's a tiny little tool, that exists for 30 years or so. But that was more because that's the one that I was most familiar with, because that was the one that Deutsche Bahn had. And I worked for the vendor, blah, blah, blah. And I had access to it, right? So that was the criteria. A lot of the stuff that I described in the book is applicable to any tool. Obviously not the specific configuration steps that I talk about, but all the other stuff. And I saw the need for the book because I've seen those initiatives fail because people just didn't follow through, right? It collected dust and then they threw it out. And the reason for that is in my mind, people don't realize that this is an enterprise software that you implement. And with that, there's certain processes that you should follow. And one of the main concepts in the book is the approach that I propose, which has 4 areas. The first one is strategy, right? So figuring out who do we want to be when we grow up? Who are our stakeholders? What are the objectives? What are the services that we want to provide? Oh, by the way, which capabilities do we need to stand up? And how do we measure that we are successful? And then that also includes setting up a communication program, right? Do good things and talk about it. It also includes creating visibility via dashboards and reports, because there's that question, are we 5% done or are we 85% done? There's a tiny difference in between, right? The second big thing is, and I say in the book, you shouldn't start with it, but then I start with it because it's the easiest, is the technology part, right? Yes, you can do architecture without a tool, but having a tool and having a professional tool makes things so much easier because you can collaborate and you can version and whatever, all that nonsense that those tools do that a whiteboard or a butcher block paper doesn't do, right? So I call that technical governance, that area. How to buy a tool, bring it in, initial provisioning, configuration, scripting, automation, reporting, whatever, right? The third one is that I call process and organizational governance. So in my mind, you need to lay out very clearly what are the rules of engagement. So when I think about it, Mirko is the new guy on my project. His role is process modeler. What's the first question you will ask? What am I supposed to do? Right? So you better have an answer for that. And then I typically like to draw processes for this because it's a process,
Yeah, love that.
If you just have a hammer, everything is innate, right? So you draw a process, but you derive roles from it that you then can use for missions, that you then can use and derive your training program from it because you know what people are supposed to do, you know which roles you have, you know what they're, whatever, right? So you can do this. Oh, you can also identify, and I babble about this and I put in the government as an example. You identify your governance organizations because you have people who do, people who make the rules, and people who enforce the rules. Right? So I'm talking, given the example of the ARB, the Architecture Review Board, which in most organizations is known as the Committee of No, N-O, right? Because they always reject everything. But I want it to be the Committee of No, K-N-O-W, right? Because they can be helpful. And I tell the story of a client engagement that I had where we had a very light touch implementation and stand up of an ARB at that client in an agile environment. So it's a third one. And then once you have everything, you have your idea where you want to go, you have your tool, you have rules of engagement defined. Guess what? You want to bring in content, right? So I'm talking about, okay, what is the content import part, right? And that could be twofold. That could be connectivities to other systems of truth, like an Archer for risks or a ServiceNow for apps. But it also could be the big pile of Visios, napkins, whiteboard photos, and whatever you have that you need to bring into the tool to put it into your structure. And There's a couple of ways how to do this. It starts with creating your catalog. What do I have? And assessing, is it current? Do I really want to bring that in? Or is that a stupid idea? Or is it outdated? These type of. So those 4 areas, and I talk in the book about those then in separate segments after an introduction segment where I talk about the changing role of architects and what are the different frameworks and methods and notations and gobbledygook, right? Where I also introduce then which capabilities should you stand up, right? And I'd be using a capability model that one could use for a maturity assessment as well. A capability model that has like 5 main capabilities decomposed into 24, decomposed into 105-ish, 115. I forgot. I haven't counted them lately. Maybe they populate. So doing this, and then I go into, again, those areas: strategy, technical governance, process governance, and import. And then I round up the book in a last segment where I said, okay, now we've talking about that stuff for hundreds of pages. Let's apply that to a use case. And I chose BPM as one architecture view, if you want to describe things. And then I have some real life examples. Well, how does it look like? How do I structure my database? Functional versus end-to-end view. What do I do with risks? I talk about, well, how could an import, in this case, into Aris look like? Scripting, how do I develop this? Oh, you need a dev and a test and a prod environment. Interesting, that's extra cost, and all those things. So I walk people through with the example to say, okay, if I don't know what to do anything, and in my mind, architecture on the, I don't know, where does space begin? 100,000 feet, somewhere on that level, it's relatively simple. You get your arms around something, you create a catalog, if you will.
Yeah.
And then you analyze your catalog, and then you plan and do something. Because if you don't do anything with it, guess what? All the stuff upstream, your catalog and your analysis is nonsense, right? And I thought in that last chapter, now we've created our functional and end-to-end decomposition, and we imported stuff where I have 3 chapters about analysis. Like, where do I start if I don't have anything? And there's one I call base analysis, where you use things that the tool ships with, reports and all that stuff to analyze it. What should you look for in process, in org, and risk, and apps, and whatnot? Then I have a chapter about simulation, which is a very interesting topic in my mind, especially when you think about digital twin and all those shenanigans, and then I have a very thin chapter talking about process intelligence, where basically then put the different analysis methods on a Venn diagram, from human-oriented to data-driven.
Okay.
And if you have a Venn diagram, you can put all the other stuff on there, like lean and BI and all those things.
Yeah.
Right? And then it closes out. I have 2 more appendices that I talk about what's the BPMN and how do I do data modeling, because I refer to that in the previous chapters, and somebody might say the rules of engagement, create a BPMN diagram. If you don't have a clue what BPMN is, you should tell them at least a little bit and not just say, read the 500 pages of the spec, because nobody will.
Okay.
Right? So that's in a nutshell the book.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for this holistic overview. I think the content seems to be quite holistic. Whenever I want to introduce EA, BPM, sounds like it's a good idea to have a closer look onto your book.
I do agree.
Yeah. What kind of person, just to verify that, did you have in mind when writing the book? So
it's a and your listeners know that I run the What's Your Baseline podcast. So I'm officially a publisher now. So it's a What's Your Baseline publication.
Yeah.
Yay. It's the same target group. It's people who work and run those practices, practitioners, right? So like your job when you were at Lufthansa, right? Where you had to deal with it every damn day and you struggle with the tool and all that type of stuff. You would be dead center in that audience for the book.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely have to read it. As I said, I haven't read it up to now, but I'm curious because that's it seems to be a quite good fit. You remember I did the survey end of last year, and the top BPM topic for 2025 was how to build a process-driven organization. Yeah, and I think
Hmm.
what you are covering in your book is something which is for the people who are going to build a process-driven organization, and that
Yeah,
definitely makes sense. That's
yeah. And it came, how it came to be was obviously I do that for a while now, right? And I always had the same question, right?
yeah.
And it's not the client's fault. Everybody's new at some point in time. But then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if they just could read it and I could say,
Hmm.
hey, it's here, read it, and when you read it, we can talk. So I started back in 2021. I started writing articles on
Hmm.
whatthebaseline.com, right? And that was good enough, right? I also created proposals, where people ask me, oh, what's the implementation schedule? I created a little Gantt chart, I said, oh, do this, do this, do this. And then I put little footnotes in it and said, oh, by the way, if you want to have more details, read this article, read that article, read that article,
Yeah.
right? Which are still on the website, by the way, right?
Okay.
Somewhere in the back that nobody reads anyways. But then last year, was it last year on 23? I read that the average business book has 50,000 words.
Okay.
And I was just curious, how much did I write? And I thought, oh, maybe 20,000 words. I don't know. So I copied all those articles as is, right, in a Google Doc. 43,000 words. And I said, oh, 7,000 words? That's half an afternoon.
Yeah.
Ish. So at the end of the day, I had to rework all the articles, right? Because sometimes things don't fly. If you say, oh, as we saw in last week's article, blah, blah, that obviously doesn't fly in a book, But in some areas, there's also some thinking that has changed since I wrote those articles.
Hmm.
And then on top of it, I wrote another 35,000 words.
Wow.
So the whole thing is now 75,500 words.
Yeah.
And I do have a couple of freebies that readers can download, like the slides and a worksheet for selecting the tool and a tracker in Notion for tracking your imports, that type of stuff. Little helperlies that I issued published as products for sale on the site.
Yeah.
A couple of people bought it. So that was my little test pilot. Is there an interest for it? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And the readers of my book will get access to those for free.
Cool.
So it's a twofer, as we like to say here, 2 for 1.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yep.
super cool. And I would also like to have a look into the future. You were part of the survey and you already shared your predictions for 2025. As far as I remember, it was mostly about the market consolidation. I'm super curious. We're now in April, so a few months in 2025. What's your update on this?
Okay, so first of all, thanks to Hanneke, who was one of my beta readers.
Oh yeah.
Who after she read it came back and said, "I read it. I was unsatisfied. Where's the outlook?" And of course, she was right. So I wrote a couple of pages, but I start with the words, "A wise man once said, predictions are hard, especially about the future." So I will not try to look into my crystal ball and tell you what the future holds and pretend that I will be right. So we will see what my observations are there. So take it with a grain of salt. But I had 4 things.
Okay.
Some of them I said in yours. So one is architecture will continue to be a niche discipline because we still struggle with communicating the value. There's no shared metrics and whatnot. The second one, in opposite to everybody else who said it on your survey, there will be no AI revolution. No, humans will still be needed. It's just little helpers that are a little bit smarter than what we had before. The third one is what I said in my prediction. I see a consolidation in the market, and I see an opportunity for new players, for an open source tool, which I'm a big fan of, but I don't want to spoil it too much. And lastly, the benefits that you can get by doing architecture work and process work, they will be still there in the future, even if you just get started now.
Yeah.
Start now, right? Tune out the noise that you have and just get started. You will see benefits of doing it.
Absolutely. I fully agree. And I would also agree to this AI thing. Yeah. It's real buzz hype right now. And I'm curious what the real use cases will be with regards to BPM. And we talked about that in the podcast where we talked about burnout prevention. Yeah. Where or maybe it was not in the podcast, it was in the live session afterwards, where Eugene said, oh, even if you apply AI, you may automate a process and get faster, but in the end, you will still need someone to verify the results. And for that person to verify the results, it's even harder because this person has just the end result to verify and does not know the process. How did the AI come up with this and that solution? So maybe we add some more work on the other side if we apply AI. That just
I agree.
as one example.
Yeah, I agree. We in our current episode of the podcast, which is the previous one when this show will air, we had a conversation with Matus Mala from the Process Academy.
Yeah.
And Matus, he's at a point in his life where he thinks, oh, damn, we need to have some foundations to be laid. And you might have seen my posts about, oh, how do we motivate young kids in college to join the profession, which we don't do. And I like his approach with the nonprofit Process Academy, to say, oh, we're going to lay that, because where I agree with him is you see specialization in college, right? So, people learn to script Python for process mining and whatnot, but they don't understand what the bigger picture is, right? And I have the process lifecycle in my book, and I said, mining has its place, in the last phase, measurement and analysis, that's great. There's other things to do, solution design and problem identification and whatnot, you need to have that bigger picture in the mind to be able to assess what your current task is and how it fits in.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with Matus on this. There's a gap in that foundational training because I get the impression we teach the students to pass a test. We don't teach them the foundations, and we don't teach them curiosity, right? To say, oh, why is that? They don't ask. Like Ted Lasso said, we have an attention span of a goldfish, right? 19 seconds. And everybody expects
just 7 seconds.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, you tell me when you read my book, 380 pages. Let's see how many years you will need, to do that.
Let's find out. Absolutely. Oh, that's super cool. But just to keep it on point here in this episode, what would you say overall? What is your key message to the listeners? Not just based on the book, just overall. What should they keep in mind?
That's a good question. There is a place for BPM and architecture. Said a couple of minutes ago, there are definitely benefits in there. I would aim, if I would get started with it today, I would aim for a more holistic perspective on it. So that's why I just mentioned the process lifecycle or solution lifecycle, right, to put it in. And I would not specialize too early. I would also not recommend to look at the old methods and say, oh, that's old, nobody needs it. Like what the lean folks did, the concepts of value and waste. I'm a big fan. If I had no clue how to analyze a process, I would look for those 7 types of waste, 8, whatever, right? Yeah. So that limited number, right? And I would say, okay, when I look at my process, well, do I find something? Can I make the case? And do that type of stuff. So my recommendation for somebody who's thinking going into this space is have an open mind, keep your curiosity, right? And don't specialize too early.
Okay, that's good. And read your book.
Of course. Or the short summary that you will publish, the 19-second version on TikTok.
Oh, great. So the readers can buy your book. They can listen to your podcast. They can go to your website. Is there any other hidden source we don't know yet and you would like to share with our listeners? How can they get in contact if they want to know more?
Oh, there's a couple of things. So first of all, to have the plain advertisement here. There's 3 ways how you can get the book, right? I define 3 bundles. One is you can today go to Amazon, buy the book as a paperback or as an ebook on your Kindle. That is available now, or you can read it on Kindle Unlimited. For those of you, I don't know if they have that in Germany, but it's a subscription service that they offer. The book will, in a few weeks, will also appear on Apple Books and Google Play Books and whatever other things. Right? Right now, it's just on Amazon. The second thing is if you're my target audience, run a BPM or EA practice, right? I'm happy to sell you bundles of books, a discount. If you buy 5, you get a discount. If you buy 10, 15, 20, whatever, right? So let's talk, ping me. Happy to have that conversation. And the third one, which is actually aimed at the same target group, is, well, now you read my book. It's 380 pages, and I get the feeling I just scratched on the surface, right? I offer you for $100 to get 1 copy of the book in the format you like, and an hour of consultation with me, so that I can answer the questions and you get the color commentary and whatnot. So 3 ways of getting it. Going forward, there will be a German version of it. I just need to have my friend ChatGPT translate it, and then I have to review it and translate the slides and all that type of stuff. And there will be an audiobook version in English that will come out sometime in Q2. Okay. Right? Wow. If you haven't heard, or if you haven't had enough of me, obviously there's the podcast, right? So we publish the podcast every other Monday. There's my musings on the website, absolutely correct. And there will be another book this year. My second book will be called Successful Process Mining Projects. And I've developed a 6-step process for doing these type of projects. And my idea is to provide a data set, and then you can use that and put it in your tools, simulation, modeling, data analysis, process mining, whatever. And I'm curious if you find the same improvement opportunities following that 6-step methodology, if you will, in yours. And I'm super looking forward to this. And of course, you could package this then as a course or anything else to read. So that's what I'm currently thinking of when I think about what's your baseline, right? I'm still working with a couple of friends on a little side project that I don't know if it has legs, so I don't want to jinx it now. But there might be something coming in the digital world eventually or not. Nice. So we'll see. I don't want to talk about this yet. But if we make the decision that we go with it, then obviously we'll make a big stink. The outlet where you can find me is LinkedIn. Yeah. Right. Mirko, I guess you will put my LinkedIn URL in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm absolutely looking forward to hearing from you. Right. Not only you, Mirko, but you, the audience. Right. So if you like what we do in the podcast, if you like what I wrote, please reach out. I love having those conversations with people that I don't know.
That's super cool. Wow. Thanks for the insights, Roland. I think that was quite good to get a quick overview on what the book is really about. And now our listeners can go to Amazon, buy it, and get really deep into it. I'm not sure. This was a quite short flight. We already landed the aircraft. I'm not sure if you realized that we're already on the ground. It just one second last question. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners? Did we miss anything?
Wasn't that enough? I think I was babbling for over 30 minutes now. So no. There will be more to come, right? Stay tuned. Follow, obviously, what's your baseline on LinkedIn. Connect with me, connect with J-M, my co-host.
Oh, yeah.
on this. Well, he's a nice guy. I don't know about me, but he's a very nice guy. So, anyways, right. So that would be my ask, because I think what we need to do is, it's a very small community, and I think we all need to interact more with each other, because then that will raise the overall boat, if you will.
Absolutely. Cool. And final question. How would you describe your flight experience today in just 3 words?
Oh, I didn't notice that we landed. So great.
That's good, or? Yeah.
Yeah, flight should be uneventful. It should be like riding the bus, and nothing should happen, and you should forget it immediately, which I hope people don't forget this episode. But within the analogy, it was uneventful, super soft landing.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thanks for this feedback, Roland. It's always great talking to you. So thank you for finally being my guest in the New Process podcast. I've been in yours already, and I'm looking forward to more interactions with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah. We might see each other in September, right? Cool. I will speak at a conference in Stuttgart. Don't want to say too much, but I heard Hamburg is right around the corner. So
exactly,
you or Martin buy the beer, and I stop by.
Yeah. Maybe we can set up a Stammtisch for this, or we meet.
Yeah. Oh, Martin already offered that. So you're too late. I said, yeah, Martin, but then I want to have some little thing built out of toilet paper rolls, a little trophy for the father's commute.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's quite far. That's cool. I'm really looking forward to that. So, Roland, thank you so much. Have a great day, and bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Let's recap today's new process inspiration.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this short flight today. I hope this conversation helps you to take a decision if reading the book is a good investment for you. Roland is quite holistically covering all the 4 areas like strategy, technology, process and organization governance, as well as how to get content into the BPM system. I think it's certainly worth it for anyone who's building a process-driven organization to learn more about these 4 areas. I really like his offering of buying the book together with an hour of Roland's time. So if you are interested in this, I can assure you that you will have an outstanding conversation with him. I'll put all the links into the show notes. So just go to newproslab.com/episode 63. And Roland will be visiting Germany in late summer. Isn't that cool? We are already planning to meet at BPM Stammtisch in Hamburg. So this could also be a good option for you to meet Roland in person. To not miss this event, just join the BPM Stammtisch space on New Process Pro. If you are not yet a member of New Process Pro, you can sign up for free by going to newprosslab.com/Stammtisch. This will lead you directly to the respective space, and you'll get an invitation as soon as the date for the next Stammtisch is set. For the next episode, I'm planning to share more about the New Process BPM framework in a second bilingual episode. So another episode in English as well as German language is coming up. Just stay tuned. But for now, thank you much for listening. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye und auf Wiedersehen.
You've been listening to the New Process Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode for more tools, methods, and best practices to rethink your process and push it to the next level. Thank you for listening.
Before you leave, as you might know, I'm doing a lot of research on how to rethink processes and how to get people excited about processes. If you would like to find out more about how to rethink your own process, you can download my free New Process checklist, which provides a lot of impulses on how to push your process to the next level. To download it, just go to newprosslab.com/checklist. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. One more thing. If you are a frequent listener, you know that I'm talking a lot about the pizza game. In the past, this was only available with me as your game master. But now, you can get your own version of the pizza game to get people excited about processes without me as your game master. The pizza game is a business game to let people experience the benefit of processes. You just hand over a process model on how to bake pizza. The players make themselves familiar with the process and start producing pizza with paper, Post-its, scissors, and for sure a red pen for the tomato sauce. It's a really fun way to experience how to execute a completely unknown process just based on a process model. To learn more, go to newprocesslab.com/pizza game. The game is available in English, in German, and in French. So get your pizza game to get your people excited about processes. Just go to newprocesslab.com/pizza game.